Hey guys, it's Francine Simone, and today I am here with another video. This one also is sponsored by my friends at Disney Book Group. And I really can't wait to tell you guys about the book that they sent me because I've been waiting for this one for a while. But first, I kind of have some things I want to talk about. Stuff that's a little existential and stuff that has a lot to do with just life. So first, I want to talk about predictions. I consistently feel like I come on here with that's like way out of left field, but I want to talk a lot about what I've said on my channel over a while and predictions and kind of the existential idea of them. So let's just get into it. So I went down a rabbit hole not too long ago about Nostradamus and Rasputin and all of the people who predict things that happen later on in the future. And it was really creepy, but I came to the conclusion that we as people always predict things, or I should say we focus on things that are negative. Like honestly, a prediction is henceforth made to warn you about something so that you can either work against it or get out of dodge, whatever have you. But nonetheless, predictions are never like prosperous times for the next 2 to 5 years. Or I should say, we don't focus on those. And I want to use an example. You can watch my videos from like 2015, 16, 2016, and forward, where I talk a lot about the dismantling of the online book community. And I mean, I wasn't like making some Rasputin like visions or anything. I was just being observant of what was happening and the consequences if we didn't stop what was happening. And I realized that like over the next few years, I really focused on a lot of the negative aspects of the booktube community and the online book community in general. Booktube, I would want to say, wasn't as negative as the general online community. Booktube was actually probably one of the last little bubbles of positivity. And so I was like, man, I focused an awful lot on a lot of the controversies and the negative things that people were doing in the book industry and community for a good cause, but it was kind of counterintuitive to the actual good cause. And I spoke a lot of things that I saw happen into existence. And it's not that those things wouldn't have happened without me speaking them into existence. Like, folks are still out there being messy. But it's about my mindset and where I was while they were happening. Instead of staying in a positive little bubble, I was just wrapped up in a lot of craziness. And not in a negative way. This isn't like anything huge, like, man, you know, my life, I lost 6 years. It's nothing like that. I would just mean that I saw them because I looked at them and I focused on it, and therefore my enjoyment of the online book community became wrapped around that to the point where I wasn't enjoying it. So my main point is that I'm wondering what would have happened if I had like stayed in my own little bubble. And I don't mean like an echo chamber of positivity where we are unaware of what's happening, but instead of focusing on the negative things that people are doing, just focus on the positive things that we could be doing instead, which isn't like disillusionment. It isn't ignoring the problem. It's being a solution instead of a problem. Now, I would like to say that your girl did attempt that most of the time, and I think I actually succeeded in a lot of ways. However, it got me to thinking about predictions. Now, that being said, an event happened to me while I was at the bookstore, which we're going to talk about, and it was kind of like a fork in the road moment for me where I was like either actively going to look at it kind of negatively and make these predictions, or I was actively going to think about being a solution or like think of it in a positive way, because not all things of doom and gloom are actually, there's a positive to everything. In other words, there's like a silver lining on every dark shore, if you will. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me at the bookstore and then we'll go into it. So I'm at the bookstore, Barnes & Noble, and I was in the children's section, I was in the adult section, I made my way to the teen section. I think like I was all over the bookstore that day, actually. I was like in a lot of different sections, looking at a lot of different kinds of books, and I just so happened to bump into this mom and her daughter. And the mom was looking for something on the list. Anytime I see an adult in the teen section and they have a list, I automatically assume they're shopping for somebody else. So I always ask and be like, what are you looking for? Who are you shopping for? Because I'm that nosy. If you ever see me in this store, I'd be giving you recommendations like, oh, if you love this, you'll love this. Please buy this. You know what? Half these authors owe me a commission because I be selling books better than people in stores sell books. I'm telling you, I am the MVP. Anyways, I'm so sorry. Tangent. My point is that I saw this woman and she had a list. And so I asked her, I was like, what are you looking for? And she's like, oh, my daughter, she's right here and she's getting into YA now, and she's 13, so I thought, you know, she should come over here and read some books and kind of widen her horizons. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, well, what do you like? You know, like I read a lot of YA, so I can give you a lot of recommendations based off what you like. And, you know, then you can, you know, jump into whatever. And so her mom just hands me a list because her mom was looking at things for her daughter. Meanwhile, the daughter's just like, well, I like some books. So immediately on the list, I see A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'm like, please scratch this off. Your daughter is 13 and she looks sheltered, and this is not the book for her. And no, I didn't say all that. I was just like, well, this one has graphic content in it. And you might want to double check that. And then as we were going down the list, I know she had a lot of dystopian, some fantasy, and she said she liked romance. I was like, oh. So I start talking about some titles, and I'm like, what are you interested? I'm trying to get a gauge because this girl looks like she's on the young side of 13, the sheltered side of 13, not necessarily the independent side. I mean, her mom was in here shopping for books for her while she was in the store. That tells you an awful lot. So the girl also said that Cassandra Clare's City of Bones gave her nightmares. So I was like, let's backpedal. There are some things you shouldn't be reading. And I was like, if that's a bit too much for you, City of Bones, what are you doing in the teen section? I went to be like, there are so many great fantasies, even with little romances and hints of romances still in middle grade. There's a whole section on the other side of the bookstore dedicated to big, long series. I mean, her favorite series was Warriors. And y'all know I love me some Aaron Hunter's Warriors. I grew up heavy on that. I was shipping those cats. So I was really confused. And her mom said to me, well, she's 13 now, and it's time for her to widen her horizons and kind of grow up and stop reading kids' books. And the first thought in my mind was offensive. And two, I was like, I had to reassure her. I'm like, I still read children's books. I'm an avid reader. I'm an author. I'm about to publish a book. I read children's books, teen books, adult books. I was like, the category of age does not matter. It's content. And I'm telling this lady, I'm like, look, a lot of the themes that you're going to find in adult books or children's books are going to be the same across the board. It's just how it's dealt with. And if your daughter's having nightmares after some tame stuff in City of Bones, she is definitely not ready for the way that YA is growing. And my first thought was, I need to make a video about this because this is not the first time this has happened to me. I've been in the bookstore. Well, obviously, we on BookTube, y'all. I frequent the bookstore a lot, and I see a lot of adults in the teen section looking for younger children. 13, 12, 14 is usually the max age in which parents are still shopping for books for their kids. And it's always the same thing. I'm always recommending these great middle grade series that actually fit way better to their kids' interest than these teen books, because the teen books really start around 16. And when I was thinking about making a video, I was like, man, I really need to talk about how YA is getting too old and X, Y, and Z. And I felt like I've made these videos before, and I realized I was in a fork in the road. I could either continue talking about the problem or introduce some solutions. So we're going to take a positive spin. And I really want to talk about how great middle grade is doing right now, because it is growing. I know I titled this The Middle Grade Problem. Clickbait, I'm so sorry. It's not a problem. It's actually a solution to a problem that's in middle grade. And the problem is y'all's conception of middle grade. And by y'all, I mean those grown adults shopping for their kids, dissing the middle grade section like it's, all Charlotte's Web, which, no shade to Charlotte, but that is a very old-esque story that is really meant for children of the ages about 8. And I really want to talk about the books and the great work that a lot of authors have been doing for that middle grade area of true middle-aged kids who are between the ages of 11 to 14, I want to say, where life is still kind of a dream. You're really young and you're not being really confronted with a lot of teen angst, but you still have angst because you're a kid, way more than you had when you were 8, right? You're 12, you're 13, you're 14. Y'all can remember how life was. So I really want to talk about that whole transition and the books that are really doing amazing stuff. So first on the list, I really want to talk about my friend Tristan Strong, Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mambalia. And guys, this is another Rick Riordan Presents, and I love this imprint. I read Ruth Shaw, and I absolutely loved it. And so I've been waiting for this one, I think back last year when I first saw the cover and I read what it was about, which we're going to get into. So this book is about a boy named Tristan, and his best friend dies tragically in a bus accident, and Tristan was there, and in order to get over his grief, which isn't a real thing, getting over grief, but his parents send him to live with his grandparents in Alabama for the summer. So it's a trip. It's not like they're getting rid of him because he has grief, but he goes on a trip to his grandparents, and while he's there, the only thing he has of his best friend is a journal, and it's a journal that they were writing stories in, and it's precious to him. So when some sticky monster shows up in his room and swipes that journal and takes off, Tristan chases after him. And while Tristan is trying to get the journal back, he ends up punching a hole in the sky. It's actually in a tree, but it creates a chasm in the sky where it opens up the worlds of like monsters and gods on the other side who are and like all of these beings that are hunting people on our side. And so Tristan has to essentially fix it. And what is great about this book is along the journey, you get to meet American folk heroes like Briar Rabbit, John Henry, who are helping Tristan along his ride. And what I really like and what it got me excited about it to begin with is it covers the African diaspora. So it has African American folklore in it, and it has West African folklore like Ananse is in here, the weaver, who will help them weave up the sky and, you know, close the hole, but at a price. And so I love like the fact that there's folklore. It's a heavy emphasis on like storytelling. There's like lots of things about grief, talk about content or themes that you can find in adult and teen literature, but this is wrapped up in a way that it represents kids who are about his age. This is about the 12, 13, 14 age span. And so when that woman was like, she needs to grow up and read teen books, like, girl, come on, lady, like, this is perfect. But guys, this one is out now. So I think it came out October 15th. Either way, we are past the date and is in stores. So go and check it out. Check out all the other Rick Riordan Presents books. Ruth Shaw, I love that one, is based off of Hindu folklore. So if you read Ruth Shaw, you'll know that like another thing that I really like about the imprint in general is it seems like the voices and the narration, or I should say a lot of the books have narration that are extremely voicey, and I love voicey writing. So Ruth Shaw, she's really snarky and witty and in an endearing way, not in the way that's annoying. It's like, it's very sweet and it just gives me chills because it's so cute. And I expect the same thing out of Tristan Punches a Hole in the Sky. So guys, honestly, check it out. And the last thing I want to say about this is I haven't seen American Gods, but I often hear this pitched as Percy Jackson meets American Gods. And so if that's kind of your thing, check it out. But again, I want to say thank you to Disney Book Group, not just for sponsoring this video, thank you, boo, but also because they're doing amazing work with this imprint. Talk about being a solution to a problem and being a solution in a way that really matters, like that's meaningful, showing kids culture and celebrating individual cultures in ways that's endearing and that covers themes that we see all the time, and not just pitching something as important, but pitching it as a story, the importance of storytelling, of it's a whole endearing thing that isn't wrapped up in he's black. It's a story about a boy who's going through a tough time, and he has a fantastical adventure coming out on the other end. And I have to give my thanks to Disney, also for Disney Plus. I know you guys aren't the same thing, but still, thanks guys, thanks. I'm gonna mention some other books. I don't really have them organized, but let's see how we do. I already mentioned Ruth Shaw by Roshni Chokshi, and I thought that this one was really sweet. Like, I just love Aru. I love this type of protagonist. She's super voicey. And for any of you who haven't heard of this one yet, I'd be a little surprised. But Aru is a cheeky little girl who lives in a museum with her mom. And her mom is in charge of all of like the Hindi artifacts and stuff. And one day there's a lamp, and Aru is dared to show that she isn't a liar and actually has a magical lamp in her house, and she rubs it, wakes up the god of time, who is now going to go and stop time all over the world. So it is up to her and a friend to kind of like set things back right. Our honorary mention, and this is the second book. I guess I did not pull the first book. But Harry Potter, like, guys, we already know this. Harry Potter is the great bridge and gap between children's literature and YA. And so I don't think I need to say anything about Harry Potter, but it is the epitome of everything that I mean about being able to have a story that fits in that middle age range. One that I read recently was The School of Good and Evil. Now, personally, review-wise, I think I gave this like a 3 or 4 star. It was not my favorite construction wise, but I really did enjoy the story, and I ended up listening to it, and I love the narrator. Her name's Holly something, but if you have a chance to listen to the book, go ahead and give it a listen. It's really fun. It's just a little messy when it comes to construction because there's so much going on, and it was very hard to kind of grasp everything, and the themes and stuff didn't exactly sit the way that I wanted them to, but that's a bit subjective. But overall, a great read. It's really fun, and it's thick for those who like thicker books. I'm going to do some 2 honorary mentions because I think they've been in the game and doing it a lot longer than I have given anybody credit for, but that is Diana Wynne Jones with Howls Moving Castle. She is whimsical and beautiful and writes amazing stories. And she writes some adult fantasy as well that's quirky and funny. Talk about being voicey and snarky, but I love UK-ish humor, so that's why me and Diana, we was getting along. But I think she recently died, so sad. The story is so just whimsically great. It literally is like watching Hayao Miyazaki's Ghibli movies. Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how old the people in the movie are. It's just relatable no matter how old you are. And it's always a joyride, and they're beautiful. So yes, Howl's Moving Castle. If you've seen it, you'll probably really enjoy the book because they are fairly different, but in 2 different beautiful ways, not different because one is better than the other. I'm going to say my girl, Gwendolyn Van Dronen. I think that's her name. But Flipped, I actually watched this movie a long time ago on HBO, and then I realized it was a book, and it was about the same woman who wrote my favorite mystery series, Sammy Keys. I have some of those. Hold on. When I was in middle school, I freaking loved these books. I was terrified of anything mystery and thriller because it gives me high anxiety. I do not like being fearful or being afraid. So it took me a while to find mysteries that I could actually read that were okay. Like Nancy Drew was just too dry for me in book form, and the Hardy Boys and stuff. It was just all not really relatable. But Sammy Keys lived in her grandmother's retirement home under the radar because nobody under 55 or 65 retirement age was allowed to live there. And she once saw a man stealing something from a hotel, and he saw her. So she goes on a whole a whole mystery spree to find out what happened. And these books do grow with Sammy. She does get a little bit older with every book. Not with every book, but by the end of the series, she's a little bit older. And it's just, ooh, I'm getting chills because it's a whole feel. It's a whole feel. But these are great. Gwendolyn is amazing. She really writes great character pieces in voice. And Flipped is a book about a boy and a girl who's obsessed and loved this boy. She's in middle school, I think 6th grade. It's about 6th to 8th grade, where she really likes him and he wants nothing to do with her. And then as they get older, it flips, where she's starting to see that her infatuations are really shallow and that he needs more substance. And he's starting to realize that she's an amazing girl. And it's just adorable. Speaking of contemporaries, and this is where I get into graphic novels, because I think graphic novels are doing the best right now in the market for middle grade age kids when it comes to reading and really impactful stories that are amazing and actually feel like they hit the demographic. Svetlana, my girl Svetlana, and her series Crush, Awkward, and Brave. I love these. It starts with Awkward, Brave, and then Crush. I love these books. They're about middle school kids, and it's just like all of the themes are there. It's super diverse and in a way that isn't important, but is natural and organic and real. Svetlana does an amazing job of writing stories that just are so real and get all of the emotions about what it's like growing up and just being a kid and having to make choices and having to stand up for yourself or stand up for others and just being yourself. And I think she does an amazing job. These are 3 graphic novels that you can find anywhere. They're pretty popular. Please check them out if you love contemporaries. Steven Universe gets an honorary mention from me because I cannot shut up about this show. I absolutely love Steven Universe. Steven Universe is a show that I think everybody should watch just because it's all about the true meaning of love and the true meaning of just being and of family and friendship and all of that. It's just such an amazing show. So I got some of the graphic novels, and those just are as fun as the show. This one, I think Stephen is a little bit older in school size. This one is too cool for school. And then there are some other volumes that just, they don't really pick off where the show left off. They're just more adventures. So I absolutely recommend Steven Universe. I am actually recommending the show right now, and I'm just holding up the book so that I can advocate for the show. But whatever, I'm gonna do me, and you should do you and watch this show. These three are the last ones that I'm going to bring up about contemporary. This is Positively Izzy, Invisible Emmy, and Just Jamie. I have not read this one. I did read these two, and I enjoyed them. They weren't as good for me as the ones by Svetlana Chamakovsky, which is The Awkward, Brave, and Crushed. But they were very enjoyable, so I definitely recommend even just picking it up from your library to see if it's something that you really jive with. But it really covers a lot of what it's like just being in middle school and being a person and having to go through growth and growing up. And I can imagine that this one is going to be great too. This one's actually much thicker, so I'm going to read this one soon. This is one that I picked up recently called The OK Witch by Emma Steinkleiner. Anyways, this one is about a girl who likes all things witchy and then finds out she actually is a witch after a Halloween party gone awry. So I have not read it yet. I am very excited to. Mainly, I saw this while I was at Barnes & Noble, and they had like a back to school thing or something, and I just so happened to find it on the shelf. Nowadays, I'm super graphic novel oriented. I will go to the Barnes & Noble. I will go anywhere where they have a kids section and just peer through all of their graphic novel stuff, because that is where the gold is these days. And this one just looked amazing and adorable and cute, and it's all about her just coming into her own power, because her powers finally start to show up, and she finds out the truth about her family and kind of where she fits in. And I'm just excited. I think that the art on this is cute and gorgeous, and I love the coloring on it. So wish me luck. And also, if you were really interested or have a budding witch in the family, pick it up. It's so cute. Why not? And the last one is going to be Afar. I did a review on this in my Black History Month video. I think it was a wrap-up. Check somewhere in February or March. But it's a great one. This is another fantasy and otherworld-esque story. I loved it. It was super weird and cool. It's almost like fantasy. It's almost like science fantasy, and that's like my favorite genre ever. So check this one out if you're really interested in kind of like fantasy and the idea that when you go to sleep, you can travel to other worlds and your dreams are really real. Like if you like that aspect, check this out. My only big issue is that it is a single volume. It's just this story, and I felt like this was something that could have been developed into like much more story and bigger. And it's illustrated by Kit Seaton. And for the most part, I thought she did a pretty good job. Like I say pretty good job. What I mean is that I enjoy the illustrations. I'm very picky on like what I like to look at when I'm like dedicating time to looking at somebody's illustrations, and I thought that they were really beautiful. So yes, that concludes my list of like great things that I've been seeing in middle grade, stuff that I've been really excited for, and like I'm just so excited for the future. I honestly feel like YA and middle grade are expanding in such a huge way. With that being said, I think that we are upon a new renaissance soon. And I can't wait to see all of the great stories that come out, and I can't wait to see what it looks like, especially 10 to 15 years from now, what these categories look like. I am optimistic that the future will be bright. So I want to leave you guys just with a thought, just wrapping it up, back from when I was talking about at the beginning of this video about predictions. I want to leave you guys with the idea that instead of always looking for predictions to warn us from tragedy and disaster, why don't we start looking at the predictions that tell us everything's going to be preposterous. Everything's going to be prosperous. If you could know that tomorrow would be a great day and all you have to do is just be you and just exist in your essence and in yourself, I think that's a really hard choice to make. We're always trying to do stuff. We're always trying to fix something. We're always trying to fight against something. We're always trying to win out against some evil villain or whatever. I mean, it's in all of our books. That's what we read. We all want to be the hero of our own stories. Well, why not just be, just like look forward to the majesty that is your life. So here's a prediction for you. You are destined for greatness. So just be great.